Last time, we talked about all the Identity 5 crossovers that have happened since the game launched. With so many collaborations and a growing fan base, it's no surprise that IDV fans have started coming up with their own ideas for future crossovers. That's why I put out a fun question in my community post asking for your crossover suggestions. And turns out a lot of you already had some pretty detailed ideas. So today, let's dive into the crossover concepts you've come up with. This is your broadcaster Somina, signing in. First up, let's dive into this wild crossover idea. Identity 5 and Saw. For those who've somehow missed the Saw franchise, it's a series of American horror films known for its gory traps and suspense narrative. It's all about John Kramer, a serial killer with a flair for DIY torture devices and his apprentices. Fun fact, Saw has even made its way into video game crossovers before. Now, this user's concept is pretty intense. John Kramer is a Mad Eye skin? Yep, I can see him setting up twisted fences across the map. Amanda Young, who's the poster child for plot twists, would be the Doctor. And to top it off, Bon Bon would be Billy the Puppet. Well, in case Bon Bon wasn't already creepy enough, now you've got him rolling around with those freaky little cheeks and a tricycle. In my opinion, this crossover would definitely be something. But will it be a hit? I've got my doubts. If this were Dead by Daylight, the answer would be a hard yes, since that game is like the horror version of IDV. As for IDV itself, I'm not sure. I feel like the fanbase would sooner go nuts over another Hello Kitty or Cookie Run crossover than seeing their favorite survivors get stuck in a reverse bear trap. But hey, what do you think? Would Saw be a smash hit in IDV? Or should we leave the grisly traps to the pros in DBD? Gakkou Gurashi. An anime about a bunch of high school girls having the time of their lives in a school crawling with zombies. You know, just normal high school stuff after all. The manga is already finished, but the anime only scratches the surface of this cheery nightmare. Naturally, we've got several protagonists, and yep, they're all high school girls. So, this user came up with a crossover idea. Gakkou Gurashi meets Identity 5. They suggested that Yuki, the girl blissfully hallucinating her way through the apocalypse, should be Emma. Well, seems fitting, right? Yuri, the big sis who looks after everyone, could either be Emily or Vera. I prefer Emily, though. Kurumi, the shovel-wielding badass, should be the antiquarian or coordinator, and Miki, the boyish one, would make a great Tracy. Oh, and their trusty dog, Taromaru? Definitely the pet. I can totally see this being awesome. I'm not sure how many IDV fans out there are familiar with Gakkou Gurashi, but with this lineup, it'd be super fun to watch these characters stumble their way into the IDV universe. Plus, who wouldn't want a cute but kinda tragic zombie dog following them around during matches? Frieren, the anime that took the community by storm back in the day, and honestly, probably still is. It's one of those shows that just sticks with people, and from what I've seen, a lot of IDV fans seem to love it too. I've spotted plenty of folks on Facebook, Reddit, you name it, dreaming of a Frieren and IDV crossover. According to this user's pitch, the crossover would feature Frieren as an S-tier skin for the blind girl, Q the magical vibes, Fern as an A-tier skin for antiquarian, Stark as an A-tier mercenary, and Himmel as the S-tier batter skin which available in the store. Pretty solid lineup, though I'm sure other fans might have their own ideas for who fits best. But given Frieren's popularity, I can totally see this being a massive hit. It's one of those crossovers that would have fans lining up to grab those skins. What about you? Would you be hyped for this crossover? Or do you have another anime in mind that would make an even better match? Back in the day, I used to daydream about an Identity V crossover with one of those iconic horror game franchises from the 2000s, specifically Silent Hill. Now, for those of you who somehow missed this gem, Silent Hill is a mix of satanic cults, terrifying creatures, delusions, and dramatic stories. Basically, it's the kind of game that makes you question your life choices after playing. I've played a few of the series myself, and I can honestly say it's a horror game worth diving into. Fun fact, Silent Hill has already crossed over with Dead by Daylight, where the infamous Pyramid Head made his grand entrance, dragging that massive sword behind him. And yet, I still find myself wondering why on earth Meaties hasn't pulled the trigger on a crossover with IDV. I mean, Pyramid Head would make a perfect Percy S-tier skin. Plus, isn't it about time Percy got some love? Have you seen his skin collection? It's practically void! The poor guy's been left out in the cold for long. And then there's Heather Mason. She's a fan favorite from Silent Hill. But who would she fit in IDV? Honestly, I'm torn. Based on her story, she could work as Tracy, but her fighting spirit makes me think Antiquarian or Coordinator would suit her too. Either way, I'm all in for seeing Silent Hill characters in IDV. The franchise has a huge following, and it's high time we get to see this nightmare crossover come to life. Wouldn't you agree? Who among us hasn't heard of Cookie Run? This game is basically one long sugar commercial in disguise. It's got cookies running left and right, and before you know it, kids are convinced that cookies are the cutest things ever, and that they should be eating cookies like they're a food group. Forget veggies. Who needs those when you've got adorable cookies? The game's fun, for about an hour. After that, it gets so repetitive, you'll be wondering if you're in a Groundhog Day situation. So, naturally, some people are dreaming of a Cookie Run and Identity V crossover. You know, the same way we got the B-Duck and Sanrio crossovers. But then I hit a roadblock. Who's going to be the cookie? I mean, picturing someone like Norton Campbell as a cookie? It's a lot. So, maybe we're better off with characters like Ann Lester or Alice DeRoss rocking chocolate cookie outfits. Would this crossover be a hit? Maybe. I mean, a lot of IDV players probably know or play Cookie Run, especially those under 20, who still think cookies are peak cuteness, but I'm guessing the ancient players, or those 25 and up, might not be as thrilled. Because, let's be real, at that age, you're more worried about what cookies do to your waistline than about how cute they are. But hey, just my guess! So, this user just casually dropped Fate as a crossover idea, and I was left scratching my head like I'm trying to explain quantum physics to my goldfish, Elizabeth. Seriously, what is fate? According to the dictionary, it's destiny. So, you know, a pretty abstract concept. I asked Gemini for some clarity, and I got a lecture that was basically on par with a mathematician explaining how to build a giant airship. In anime or Japanese pop culture terms, Fate is actually a whole series of anime and manga, so I thought, let's roll with that, because I'd rather dive into anime than into the depths of mathematical confusion. The Fate series is like the horror movie of the anime world. It just keeps coming. There's Fate Stay Night, Fate Realta Nua, Fate Zero, Fate Apocrypha, Fate Collide, and honestly, I'm not even going to try to count them all. For this crossover dream, let's just focus on Fate Collide. In Fate Collide, we get to see 3 lowly magical girls, which is basically like a dream come true for anyone who's into that sort of thing. Forget the slightly stiff animation. Fate Collide is all about Ilya von Einsburn, Or Prisma Ilya, the magical girl in pink, who's cute as a doll. Imagine Prisma Ilya as the little girl in IDV. I'd be ready to throw my cash at that without a second thought. Where else can you get to play a character in a pink magical outfit and be cute all at once? It's the kind of crossover that makes your wallet weep and your heart sing. When you really think about Ace Attorney, you'll realize it's not so much a suspense or thriller game. It's basically a soap opera with lawyers. I mean, come on! The lawyers in this game are more dramatic than soap opera stars, and the courtroom? It's like the world's worst play, complete with over-the-top acting and plot twists that make you question your life choice. And Phoenix Wright. His haircut alone looks like it belongs at the scene of a crime. I always wonder how this guy still has clients. Plot power? Well, pretty much so, I bet. Then there's the courtroom itself, where everyone's yelling like they're auditioning for a drama series, while the judge just sits back, sipping tea like he's enjoying a reality show. Oh, and the witnesses? They're so conveniently forgetful, it's like they've taken a permanent vacation from their memories. If Identity V ever collaborates with Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright or Miles Edgeworth is a no-brainer for the lawyer role. Same job, same criminal vibe, and equally as dramatic. Omori. An indie game with a story so thick you'll need a therapist to unpack it, just like the layers of regret you feel after another brutal rank session in Identity V. Despite its simple graphics, Omori pulls you in with a plot that's got more emotional weight than your in-game losses. The storyline? Well, let's just say it's about coping with trauma. Think of it as how you cope after a 3-hour rank grind with randoms who can't even rescue. It's all about surviving the angst. And by the end, you'll definitely be questioning your life choices. Kind of like how you feel after being demoted for the millionth time. If Omori ever crossed over with Identity V, I honestly have no clue who would play who. I mean, Omori is more about story than gameplay, so trying to match the characters is like trying to kite as Helena. Tricky and full of confusion. Maybe Aubrey could be Alistair Ross? They've both got that I'm angry at the world vibe. But as for who would play Omori, that's a tough one. Maybe Axe Boy? She does tinker with stuff like Omori messes with emotions. But hey, what do you think? Many might disagree, but let me just put this out there. Demon Slayer is a flashy anime more focused on style than substance. I mean, let's face it, bro. It's your classic shonen where the good guys are always right, the bad guys are always wrong, and somewhere along the way, a deus ex machina pops in to save the day. The characters? Stereotypical and one-dimensional. The plot? Predictable. Sure, the animation is great, but it's like sword swing, another sword swing, and oh look, more sword swinging. It's a shonen on steroids, packed with all the tropes you'd expect, but lacking any real depth or originality. Now, if Identity V ever teamed up with Demon Slayer, the one thing I'd want to see is little girl as Nezuko. That's it. Nothing else matters. Well, even if I said so, I once talked about this theory in one of my older videos, so feel free to check that out for my detailed take. Professor Layton is one of those games that managed to be cute and somehow boring yet engaging at the same time, if that makes any sense. Despite its slow pace, it got so successful that it even had an anime adaptation back in 2018. The series follows the charming Professor Layton as he solves puzzles and unravels mysteries, blending archaeology and brain teasers like it's no big deal. Imagine Identity V crossing over with Professor Layton. According to a fan, they'd want the novelist as Layton, which makes sense to me. And Postman as Luke, Emmy as journalist, Flora as toy merchant, Burke as Don Paulo, and Joseph as Descol. Honestly, these pics match up pretty well, though I'd argue Flora could totally be Emma too. But if this crossover ever happens, you can bet I'm snagging Flora for myself. There are so many crossovers fans are dying to see, but we'll leave it at that for today. Hopefully, NetEase hears our pleas and makes some of these happen in the future. Share your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, this is your broadcaster, Selmina, signing off. See you later, folks!